Thomas Sowell is one of the most brilliant minds of our time. His insights as an economist, historian, and social commentator have shaped countless lives and challenged conventional thinking. In this video, we'll explore 20 of his most powerful quotes that will make you rethink everything you know about economics, politics, and society. Quote 1. One of the most dangerous trends of our times is making the truth socially unacceptable or even illegal with hate speech laws. Sowell warns us that when truth becomes illegal or restricted, we risk silencing important conversations that challenge societal norms. Quote 2. It takes considerable knowledge just to realize the extent of your own ignorance. Humility is key. Sowell reminds us that the more we learn, the more we realize how much there is still to understand. Quote 3. People who enjoy meetings should not be in charge of anything. Sowell's dry wit here reminds us that talk without action can often be counterproductive. Quote 4. Too much of what is called education is little more than an expensive isolation from reality. Sowell challenges the traditional education system, suggesting that much of modern academia is out of touch with real-world issues. Quote 5. The first lesson of economics is scarcity. There is never enough of anything to satisfy all those who want it. This quote gets to the core of economic theory and reminds us that trade-offs are a fundamental part of life. Quote 6. The fact that so many successful politicians are such shameless liars is not only a reflection on them, it is also a reflection on us. Sowell challenges us to reflect on the role we play in electing leaders who may not have our best interests at heart. Quote 7. It is hard to imagine a more stupid or more dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong. Sowell critiques the disconnect between policymakers and the consequences of their decisions on everyday people. Quote 8. The next time some academics tell you how important diversity is, ask how many Republicans there are in their sociology department. Sowell highlights the irony of selective diversity in academic and intellectual spaces. Quote 9. Socialism in general has a record of failure so blatant that only an intellectual could ignore or evade it. Sowell critiques the persistent romanticization of socialism, despite its historical failures. Quote 10. The more people who are dependent on government handouts, the more votes the left can depend on for an ever-expanding welfare state. Here, Sowell addresses the political incentive structures behind welfare systems. Quote 11. The most basic question is not what is best, but who shall decide what is best? Sowell reminds us that the central issue in politics isn't just finding the right solutions, but deciding who gets to make those decisions. His message warns of the dangers when too much power is concentrated in the hands of bureaucrats or elites who may not truly represent the interests of the people. Quote 12. It is amazing how much panic one honest man can spread among a multitude of hypocrites. Sowell emphasizes the power of truth in a world filled with deception. One person willing to speak the truth can expose the hypocrisy of an entire system. This quote resonates in today's world, where speaking out against the status quo often takes immense courage. Quote 13. Much of the social history of the Western world over the past 3 decades has involved replacing what worked with what sounded good. Sowell critiques the tendency of modern society to prioritize rhetoric over results. Policies that sound good on the surface often ignore the complexities of reality and fail to deliver real solutions. It's a call to look beyond the headlines and focus on what truly works. Quote 14. The vision of the anointed is one in which great things are done by government and bad things are done by people who oppose them. Sowell critiques the elitist mindset that views government as the ultimate solution to all problems, often demonizing those who disagree. This quote challenges us to question whether those in power truly have the best solutions or whether they're simply advancing their own interests. Quote 15. History is what happened, not what anyone's opinion says should have happened. Sowell warns us against rewriting history to fit current narratives. He emphasizes that history is based on facts and events, not opinions or agendas. This quote serves as a reminder to seek truth, even when it's uncomfortable or challenges popular beliefs. Quote 16. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. One of Sowell's most famous insights is that every decision comes with trade-offs. In economics and politics, there are rarely perfect solutions. Instead, we must weigh the costs and benefits of every choice. This principle can be applied to nearly every major decision in life and policy. Quote 17. The welfare state is the oldest con game in the world. First you take people's money away quietly, and then you give some of it back flamboyantly. Sowell points out the cyclical nature of the welfare state, where government takes from the people, only to return a fraction of it, often to much fanfare. His critique highlights the inefficiency and manipulation inherent in such systems, which often overlook the deeper structural problems. Quote 18. If you have always believed that everyone should play by the same rules and be judged by the same standards, that would have gotten you labeled a radical 60 years ago, a liberal 30 years ago, and a racist today. Sowell critiques the changing definitions of fairness and equality, noting how societal values have shifted over time. What was once considered a radical belief in equality has now been distorted into something divisive. This quote reminds us to remain steadfast in our principles, despite the changing political landscape. Quote 19. Racism is not dead, but it is on life support, kept alive by politicians, race hustlers, and people who get a sense of superiority by denouncing others as racists. Sowell takes a bold stance, arguing that while racism still exists, much of its current influence is perpetuated by those who stand to benefit from it. This quote calls for a deeper examination of how issues are framed and how they're used to divide rather than unite. Sowell critiques the double standards present in modern cultural discourse. In his view, the West's contributions are often unfairly maligned, while other cultures are idealized or shielded from critique. This quote challenges us to consider the bias in how we discuss and value different civilizations. Thomas Sowell's insights challenge us to think critically about the world around us. His wisdom is more than just economic theory. It's a guide for understanding society, human behavior, and the role of government. If these quotes resonated with you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Thank you for watching.